Welcome to the first service on this Resurrection Sunday at Morgan Mill Baptist Church. Last week we were looking at where in the Bible. For several weeks we've been looking at the upper room. Today we'll continue in Luke, the 22nd chapter, beginning in verse 14. When the hour had come, he reclined at the table, and the apostles with him. For the hour of sundown, the question comes up of when is sundown? Similar today to our question earlier this morning of when is sunrise. It is easy for us today. We look up the Naval Observatory or other websites where it's calculated for either at our location or near our location. But since this was not possible, how did the Jewish community calculate sundown, particularly if they were not in Jerusalem? Well, to this day, not only do they keep the calendars carefully in the Jewish calendar, but they even, particularly for the Passover Seder, involve the children. After the sun has gone down, and that's a relative term if you live in a mountainous area or in an area with very tall trees. In East Texas, with tall pine trees, the sun may not be seen in the morning until 10 a.m. or later. And in the afternoon, it may be 2 o'clock or earlier is the last time that you'll see the afternoon sun. The way that even to this day the Jewish community determines when sundown is for Passover is to involve the younger children. And as the sun goes down, they send with supervision younger children to go outside and to look. And when they can see 3 stars, then the sun has indeed gone down and is dark enough that 3 stars now appear. And that's sundown. So the hour had come, there in verse 14, and he reclined at the table with the apostles with him. What does it mean that they reclined? In Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, one Jeopardy question about that painting is who is the only person to have their elbow on the table? Judas? I don't know why. But more importantly for our discussion, the entire painting from the perspective is each person's reaction to the Lord telling them that one of them was going to betray him. Very interesting study from that perspective. But for our purposes, Da Vinci paints the Lord with the disciples in the Last Supper in a very European setting. They're at a table, they're sitting in chairs upright, and this is not what is occurring in the text at all. The biblical account says they reclined at the table. To recline at the table, at that time, the Romans had borrowed the triclinium from the Greeks. They just changed the name up just a little bit. It was a 3-sided table, and one would recline on something similar to a chaise longue, or a daybed, or a fainting couch, if you're an antique collector. Then, normally, one would lean on their left side and use their right hand to eat. This helps with your understanding of such a triclinium table being used, because then it makes more sense in John chapter 13 that the disciple whom Jesus loved, John, would be reclining with his back to Jesus. Then it makes sense. It seems confusing until you know the biblical text. Well, try to explain our recliners or airbeds to them. There are certain things we have to learn as background to the biblical text to understand the text. But the Lord puts the words in His Word to let us know. We just have to understand what they mean. With diligence, and more importantly, the filling power and the teaching of the Holy Spirit, we begin to learn Scriptures more and more. Well, to this day, the Jewish community at the Passover Seder adds pillows, even if they're in an area that uses similar to a European style chair. They add pillows to the area, not just for comfort, but it also adds to a very relaxed and open discussion, which the Lord is indeed having with the disciples. There's more that we need to see about the upper room discourse, and we'll see that in today's Bible study in part 2 next.